Welcome to this special episode of Decoding Gender Insights from Thought Leaders. Population First is observing the 16 days of activism against gender based violence, a global campaign from November 25th to December 10th, with a 16-part podcast series that delves into the intersection of gender and critical social issues. Since inception in 2005, Population First has focused on challenging the gendered attitudes that devalue girls and women, fuel discrimination, and perpetuate gender based violence. Gender and theatre in India share a dynamic relationship, evolving from male dominated classical forms like Kathakali to inclusive modern narratives. As women and marginalized voices gain representation, theatre is becoming a platform to challenge patriarchy, exploring gender identity, and amplifying LGBTQIA+ rights. Today, it serves as both a societal mirror and a catalyst for redefining gender roles. Joining us are two dynamic voices on the subject. Bangalore based theatre artist Sharanya Ramprakash has directed over 75 performances delving into gender, identity, existential angst, and hope. Dolly Thakur, a columnist, television anchor, theatre actor, and coordinator for Population First Ladli Awards, will no doubt bring her versatile expertise and signature style to the discussion. Over to our experts.
Dolly, I want to ask you. You were talking about being in the same show. That was you played a character in it when you were much younger, and now you return to it. Exactly the same play. Do you think there is a difference in which directors now approach the same content? You see that your character or the way the play is interpreted when it comes to, say, gender, when it comes to storylines. Do you see a change? And I want you to reflect on that a little bit.
Well, in fact, in talking about myself, I forgot to mention that the gender biases, one learned all that in theatre. And it's amazing how today you don't even look at it. That's why I mentioned that I've never played a male in a play, even from the age of 6 or 10 when I actually got into speaking roles. I've never had a gender issue, and but I've learned so much about sex and relationships and parental guidance, and the two of the plays that I've already mentioned, Streetcar Named Desire, teach you so much about relationships. And Death of a Salesman, in which I played an 81-year-old lady or 70-year-old lady, whatever, to Alec Ballingsley's Arthur Miller that I played. So, and that was about family, and that was about children, bringing up what the relationship can be, what the attitude of those people were. Now, all that, and Death of a Salesman, which I did in 1971, 72, is still relevant because we've had renewals of that play in Hindi. And we've had younger people playing those parts. Unfortunately, Satish Kaushik is no more, but he played Willie Loman in Hindi, in the Hindi version. That's done. So you can see how it's all changing. And today, there are no inhibitions, which is something which is very refreshing.
Right.
That is why Atul Kumar's latest play blows my mind. I can't tell you technically how expert it was. It was so professional, so well done. And the acting by these kids who've acted with me, Dilnaz Irani, Shivani Tagsale, Sonali Mehta, Shona, they're all people that I've worked with.
And I think, Dolly, we stand on your shoulders. We stand on the shoulders of the women before us, like you, who came in and told us what it was like to sort of take space. Whether we worked directly together or not, I think there is a legacy that performers like you leave for performers like me who come after you. And that's sort of been very, very useful to me. And each time I read about your work, or see your quotes which said, women are interested in talking about their vaginas. I don't think men are interested in talking about their penises. And I was laughing out loud when I heard you say that. Yeah, and coming back to female sexuality and how does one look at it in our work? And I think so much of Dolly's work has also been performing of vagina monologues, and this interest that we have in the female body, the female performing body, and what does it stand for? So different from the way a man is seen as being a subject, but a
Let
woman
me
is
tell you a
always an
tiny little
object.
story which touched my heart very much. When we
Mm.
performed at the Prithvi Theatre, Vagina Monologue, and we were dead scared because it was the opening shows almost. And we every time the kind of curtain shifted, we thought we'd have political biggies coming in to stop us and scream at us. But none of that happened. And at the end of the play, now I'm 82 years old, but when we started, you can imagine that was 20 years ago. An 80-year-old man stepped onto the stage and touched my feet. And I was so moved by that because the reaction that we were expecting from the audience was so different from what they were giving us there. And the huge applause and the acceptance and the question answer, it opened one's mind to so much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that was really unperformed in India so far, that kind of text, right? Which also
Took it to Sri
talks.
Lanka to perform a vagina monologue.
Yeah. Yeah. That sort of, combination of women bringing personal experiences, bringing their bodies into the stage. I mean, that sort of a collision of the personal and the political, in some sense, is a very is I think ever since Vagina monologues came out, that sort of became a beacon in some sense for writing and for women to be able to express really what is really personal, and what is intimate sort of also becomes political. So much of, say, violence that women experience is also intimate violence. It's with our partners, it's with, people who wish us well. It's very difficult to sort of talk about this. And I think Vagina Monologues really gave us that space to be able to politicize that very intimacy in that relationship. And Dolly, you have actually spoken so much about that in your books and in your writing, and you've been and your book is called, it has the word open in it. And is this difficult to do? That's my question to you.
Is that a question you're asking me?
Yeah, is it difficult to do? Is it a difficult thing to be open, especially
Not at
when
all.
your lives,
Not
women's bodies?
at all. You've got to have confidence and courage in yourself. And I've never felt embarrassed about anything uh, that I've done or that I've read or that I've written. And that's what gives me the positive energy to continue to do what I want. And
Right.
for instance, when things were not going right, the governor's wife sent me a huge big bouquet of flowers to say for her guts and determination, two things that I love. Now, when you get compliments like that, what are you complaining about? Your smile just gets bigger and bigger, like mine does, and your shoulders get stronger, and I'm able to walk in anywhere that I want.
Right.
I've just attended the Alert India uh, fundraiser, and it was amazing. Everybody, I mean, it had Sudesh Bhosle who was singing, and they were all popular modern songs that Hindi would do. But yet the kind of attention that I got from the audience, who came up to me and touched my feet and said things. What is there to complain about in life? It's just so wonderful. You are still young, but the kind of work that you're doing, from what I've read, a pity that I haven't seen any of it, but it's amazing. It's remarkable. And I do travel to other cities and see plays, but except for seeing you on stage as an awardee of the Rang
Shankar
Shankar,
Nag.
I haven't seen your work yet. But
Yeah.
I hope that
And so much
everybody
of
does.
what you just said, Dolly, about, not being ashamed, what is there to be ashamed of? This very, very central idea that you have, I find that very resonating in the sense of, a female lives, gendered realities of where we place vulgarity and where we place respectability. We say this is vulgar, this is sort of not um, supposed to be the right zone for women to be
I think
talking
it's
about.
all
And
in one's mind. There's no such
yeah,
thing as vulgarity, and
yes,
certainly
absolutely.
the
And I think,
headlines that I read in the papers of
yeah,
70-year-old men raping 3-year-old girls or 3-year-old boys, even. I mean, that is a sick society, and
right,
there is a responsibility that somebody needs to take about that. Um,
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and we're trying to
And
do that.
and precisely, Dolly, that's beautiful what you just said. And you're placing vulgarity where it belongs, right? Not in the female body, but in the responsibility one must take over their desires. I mean, I think that is so essential to so much of what women make, placing shame, placing vulgarity, placing, respectability in the right places. Because so far they're placed in all the wrong places. I also wanted to talk to you about, Vajana Monologues was directed by a woman. I wanted you to talk a little bit about the differences that you saw in being in a production that was directed by a woman as opposed to, directed by a man. What did you see any sort of difference in the way the content was looked at? What was your experience?
You
We
know,
have such less women
Eve
directing.
Ensler, who's written it and did the first production, she
Yeah.
is the nicest human being that you can meet on this earth. And it was amazing being with her. And she brought Jane Fonda, who one worshipped and adored, Melissa Tomei to India. And we had such a marvelous time with these people. So there was, it was bringing the world together. There was no differentiation between the attitudes of the Indian woman or the foreign woman, or the principles that one had. It's amazing how much it has bonded women together. And then we had girls from Pakistan who came, and amazing how again we bonded. I in fact went and stayed with two of them when I visited Pakistan, but of course that was in the days when we were all friends and it was lovely. It was like 2004 that I went. Uh, but it is people and politicians who make this world such an ugly place.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
open people's minds. Look at the kind of people that are there. There is no discrimination between men or women or caste or class or color or language. I have acted in Hindi plays, not as many as the English ones, but nobody ever discriminated against you for stupid things like that. I really think that is very. And with the politics the
Right.
way it's going today, I'm sorry, it breaks my heart to think that. Thank God I've lived decades earlier.
That's so interesting, Dolly, that you say this. So often we talk about, a time being a measure of progress. But when it comes to women's lives, like if you look at, for instance, the policies here in this country, or, the situation in Afghanistan, or say in Iran, people or women's lives were more liberated, say in the 60s, 70s than it is now. So in a sense, time is not a measure of progress. When it comes to women in our realities, we constantly experience these tensions and these contradictions that are placed next to each other. many times I'd look around and think we're in 2024, and this is probably much more regressive environment, for gender, for female sexuality, for, openness when it comes to, women's lives than it
Thank
was,
God we
say,
have
in the
theatre.
60s.
Thank God we have theatre, whether it's in large auditoriums or in small auditoriums, like we've got the Veda place that's opened up in Bombay, and it's amazing. You're permitted, you're allowed, you have a space where you can go and express yourself in
Right,
in everything, and
right,
there's no censorship there, thank God, and there's no discrimination of any kind, And those are all 50 seaters, 70 seaters, 200 seaters, some of them are very big. But we can't
right.
afford that kind of theater anymore. Uh, but, you know, uh, look at our mythology. Look at the stuff that you've done now, Sharanya. Amazing. And now there are new interpretations of Draupadi, of Krishna. In fact, there's a lot of talk of that in today's theater.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Sort of, try placing the female gaze at the center of one's writing and of the world. I think so often, when women are written about, in when they're written about, and when the writer is not a woman, there is she's looked at as one and as an object or sometimes as a victim. But women don't experience their lives like that. So I think when we put ourselves in the center and actually write, whether it's stories about men, mythology, about politics, about, even comedy,
Violence.
there is such a sense of intimacy with that subject. I mean, we are very intimate with violence. We understand it very differently from, say, a subject like war. For us, violence is a more of an intimate relationship. So the way that the female gaze goes on these subjects and the world that it therefore builds. Do you feel, Dolly, that there is, I've been writing now for about 10, 12 years. I wrote my first play much later when I was about 35 years old, about 10 years ago. I wrote my first play. Till then, I wasn't, I did not have female role models before me who were writers. I would read a Girish Karnad, I would read a Kambar, all of these very famous male playwrights or the male directorial vision. But now over the last 10 years, I actually see so many more women's writing, women's imagination, in a sense, taking sort of the center stage. What does a woman's imagination really look like, right? And I think that's sort of also been an exciting space, but there is also very less amount of women who are entering as directors and writers. And do
I've
you
been
do you
brought up in the age of Deena Pathak. Now you can see Ratna Pathak, her daughter, who's doing a lot of theatre, and Deena Pathak and I have acted together. And but those are the people that we were interacting with and exchanging views and ideas with. Sai Paranjpe, again, now they were not English actors, but they were Gujarati, Hindi, Marathi, and but the ideas were all the same. The emotions were all the same. And then when Vijay Tendulkar arrived on the scene, and his plays were about violence and discrimination against women. So I mean, the open minds that people in the theatre, that the writers in the theatre have had, is fantastic, and that is why today theatre has become very accepted and popular, but amongst the young people, it's amazing the number of plays that are going on every single day. Uh, I mean, unfortunately, I speak about Bombay because I live in Mumbai. But I can see the kind of theatre that's going on everywhere. Rang Shankara, look at the kind of work that Arundhati Nag is doing. Uh, in the dance area, what Nrityagram is doing. There again, there is so much discovery and unraveling of femininity of gender biases. It's, it's everywhere.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. At this point, Dolly, I also want to talk about, something that you have written about a lot, which is, female friendships. I want to speak to you about your relationship with Pratima Bedi. You were talking about dance, and it sort of struck me, just how enabling these relationships are, and how much they put you back, in a sense, in your own practice, and how inspiring it is to look at, say, an Arundhati Nag, or for me to look at you, or for you to have a relationship with Pratima. How important has it been? I want you to talk a little bit about this.
Listen, Pratima has been my soul sister. She's been gone 20 years now. But my God, the inspiration that she's given, and she's put into Nrityagram, which is amazing. I was there when she first tread on that soil and said, Doll, this is it. This is where my village is going to be. My Nrityagram is going to be. And you go there, and the vibes there, the attitude of the people, oh, it's absolutely mind blowing. I would advise everybody to go there, just take a breather and a break from any narrow mindedness and any conservatism that people might have. Um,
Yes, yeah.
if I turn my computer around, you'll see Pratima is my curtain in my house. So there's a big thing, a reminder of her every single day. And,
Absolutely. Dolly, you spoke about how Pratima built the space. She made Nityagram against all kinds of, censorship, conservatism, to sort of make a space for herself where, her vision is fulfilled. And not just hers, she invited so many people into that space to sort of make this. And you were speaking about Arundhati Nag, who built the Rangashankara, which transformed the landscape of theatre in Bangalore. So it's so interesting that when we talk about theater, there's always these statistics that tell us that, there are less women in the theater, there are less women, who are directing, but the ones who are there sort of are powerhouses who've not just made theater for themselves, but sort of transformed cultural landscapes by their presence. And that has been, I think, one moment in the theater has constantly transformed just by the presence of being there. One moment can change so much of that landscape for the others. And I think what you just shared was such a sort of a testimony to that. Several times when we hear about gender, when we say gender, we mean women, we mean minorities, we mean violence. But when we say gender, I think we should also mean men. It should also mean their lives. It should also mean, trans people, sexual minorities. In a sense, what happens is gender becomes focused only on women. And how do we, in a way, save women, right? This sort of victimhood narrative. And the last thing I see about women in the theater is that they're victims. They are not. They're here, and the space that they're occupying is huge. So this constant, I'd like you to reflect a little bit about on this sense of gender and the sort of victimhood of women, which is sort of implied, and that itself, the savior complex, is itself, a sort of a bias that we have to fight. Women don't need saving.
Sharanya, somehow, in all the years of theatre that I've done, gender never came in. We worked shoulder to shoulder, side by side, with men and women. And most of the directors that I've had have been men, except for Vagina Monologue, which Mahabano started, and we're all women in the show. But it's been mostly men. Jitain Merchant, Zubin Driver, Janak Toprani, Vikram Kapadia. I've worked with all of them. And you never thought of, oh my God, a male director or a female director, or are there any other females in the play? It never occurs to you. You want to produce the emotion or enact the emotion in front of an audience and communicate with them. And that is what gives you such a high. And look at unfortunately now my memory is not that good, but right now there is this other young group of girls who are doing a super, can't remember their names, but they've also been to Bangalore. I can't, the name is not coming to me right now. And what lovely work they're doing, And the areas that have opened up, like the Prithvi Theatre, the NCTA, there's so much Aruna, Vikas, and Jagriti in Bangalore.
Yeah.
Terrific work that is going on.
Absolutely, yes. It is also, yeah, you're right, Dolly. And I think one of the big differences that I see and that can really change things is women curating, building spaces, sort of inviting festivals, sort of that really is a change that I see in the last 10 years. I was recently at the Kiran Nadar Museum, which inaugurated in Delhi, and Kirtana Kumar, who's a curator, director from Bangalore, was curating the show. So it was a very the kind of lens that she has while curating, thinking about intersectionality, thinking about vulnerability, thinking about the kind of productions that she wants to bring. It was a very promising thing to see that a museum is opening in Delhi, and then there is a curator who's going to really think about intersection, who's going to think about the kind of work that she wants to champion.
Sharanya, I want to ask you. Has the National School of Drama had any effect on the younger generation?
Yeah, definitely. I think the NSD has sort of always been, one center that's always been present. I think guiding.
I used to adore the way we actors and the work that came out of the National School of Drama.
Yeah, and, for instance, Maya Rao, Neelam Mansingh, exactly. they were teachers and directors in the National School of Drama.
I hope that a lot of people whose names I haven't mentioned will forgive me. It's not because, but they're all brilliant. Maya Rao and Neelam Mansingh happens to be a particularly close friend.
Right. Yeah. And BJ Sri, who was the director of National School of Drama at some time.
These are all the actors of Delhi. I've interacted with them. I've not acted with them because they live in a different city. But I've seen as much of their work as I could whenever I'm there. And the same goes for the men. Mind you, a lot of the men have transported from Delhi to Bombay, and they're all in films now. It's a great shame that because theatre does not give you financial security, a lot of them do have to give preference to a film or a serial that comes along.
Thank you, Sharanya Ramprakash and Dolly Thakur, for this engaging and thought-provoking discussion on gender and theatre. Viewers may share their reactions, queries, and observations in the comments section below. Please watch all the episodes and initiate gender conversations with your family, friends, colleagues, and community members.